Hey Hooper, welcome back to week 2. I hope that you're feeling amazing. I do hear from quite a few of you that you feel like you're a bit behind, and I want to always reassure you that that is never the case because you can do these classes at any time, and that's why we chose to do them pre-recorded, but it's kind of like I'm in your hoop space with you. So anytime that you want to repeat them, you can go and do it again, or maybe do little segments of it, and you never have to feel like you're behind, and you can open these up and replay them or start them for the first time at any point on your hoop journey. Okay, so let's get into it this week. Now, when I was thinking about what we're going to kind of explore, we often talk about the joy and the fun and the creativity and the change that hooping brings to our lives. And many of us, we're all different, and each practice is going to be different. But this week I kind of wanted to talk about something that is not always seen in a positive light, but it definitely is a huge part of hoop practice and of dance and of creativity and expression, and that is tension. So when you think about tension, just kind of let that filter through your body. What might that be? It might be, and you can waist hoop while I'm talking if you like, just to warm up. So that might be, you might have the sensation of tension in your neck and your shoulders, like that is something. Or maybe you feel like tension, like a kind of resistance, like trying to move through something. Or maybe tension to you might be like, you know, when you pull like a rubber band or something, there's this tension. And it can also be like a tension that's created, and you can keep hooping on body warming up. It might be a tension that is created maybe in your mind. And so all of those things you can bring into your play, because really the concept of tension is this kind of like this really gorgeous struggle that we move into, that we need to step through to get to a breakthrough. So if we're always just doing the same thing, then we're always doing the same thing. And sometimes that's okay. And often in drilling, we're doing the same thing, but you'll start to recognize that there's this tension, there's this edge, there's this kind of like a little bit of a struggle that we move through so that we can grow. And without that tension, we don't expand, we don't grow. And I'm assuming that's why you're doing these classes, so that you can show up, so that you can grow, so that you can explore new territory in your body, so that you can find a practice. And a part of that is tension, is the unknown, is kind of moving through stuff that you may not have done before, or that you have done and you feel that it kind of brings a little bit of a barrier. So let's move into that with the essence of growth and flow, because we can definitely flow through tension. All right, so as our warm up, you've probably done just a little bit of an on body just then. As our warm up, we're going to move into some trick restriction. And so I'm going to give you a trick or a kind of a move, and I'm going to allow you to explore that. Now, I'm not watching, so this is definitely your individual practice, but by trick restriction, if you've never done that, there is definitely an essence of tension, because ultimately we want to stay with that one trick and explore our range of movement outside of that. So sometimes that will be a hand grip, sometimes that will be one particular trick. If you've watched my Instagram recently, I've been doing just some twin like vesicle work where the twins intersect and there's a cuspid in the middle. So you can be as playful and creative with your restriction, and know that there's that beautiful crossover between the tension and the freedom that you will then explore. So let's go with it. The first trick, or the first focus that I'm going to give you, knowing that flow is focus, is a center isolation. Now you can do that with one hand, you could do it in both directions, you could do it with two hands, so down at the base and up to the top pinkies together, down to the bottom pointers together. Now this in itself, you probably have drilled this or practiced it repetitively to get to the point where it feels somewhat stable in the center. And for many of us, and you can be coming along with me, this is our warm-up and our coordination as well. For many of us, isolations feel quite magical when we get to the point where we're smoothing them out, but in the beginning they can be quite a challenge because we're building up coordination and also strength in our arms, our body, our upper back. So this is the focus. And now you get to explore. Perhaps you bring your movement very internally, so you focus and look through the circle that you're feeling a shift in the body, and just continue the circle, continue the trick. The restriction or the tension lies in holding on to this focus, but then bringing in other movement. So perhaps you walk slowly as you speed up your isolation. So you might be playing with alternative tempo. Perhaps you keep the hoop centered, but if you're feeling warmed up, you might take it up and down. Perhaps you play with really slowing down your isolation and feeling every part of the movement, then speeding up. And where we feel the frustration, or where we feel like we would want to normally push into something else, there's also beauty in the tension there, that we're holding focus, that we're staying in our center as much as we can, and then bringing in other movement. And you can be as creative. It doesn't have to be, we're not looking for perfection here. In fact, that is the opposite of the goal of trick restriction. We're not looking for perfection. We're actually not really searching. We're trying to hold back from that constant hunt of what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next. So continue. If your arms are sore, it's good. They're warming up. One arm and then the other. Maybe the newness is in the breath, because we have to release the thought that it needs to be extreme, or it needs to be extravagant, or it needs to be something beyond, because focus and flow can be in the most subtle of movements. And keeping this center trick restriction. And it may not come today. You might not feel any great breakthrough, or just with a little bit more focus, you might feel, oh, there's some new movement in the body, but stability in this trick. And now let's change. The only restriction is that the hoop must be spinning on some part of your arm. Whatever that means for you. I'm feeling a definite call to deepen my breath, to slow down, to release. Just needs to be rolling on one part of your arm, or spinning rather. Spinning, spinning, spinning. And so we release the need to think about any major transitions or where to go to from here. And we bring just an allowing into movement of the body that doesn't always come with ease. Definitely there's some resistance. Maybe it's in the feet, in the ankles, in the knees, in the hips, in the belly, in the arms, shoulders, the jaw. Remembering it doesn't have to look like art to be art, to be creative, to be artistic, to become the artist. Especially in the dance, there is this allowing of this expression of movement that doesn't need to look like anything. And we can come back to How does this feel? Awkward? Freeing? Frustrating? Sad? We are complex humans who have an incredible range of emotions that we can explore. And we don't just have to be happy, joyous all the time. We connect with that through our practice. If your arms are hurting, this is new for you. We're warming up. Okay, let's take our trick into weaves. So I'll give you some options here. We're going to do forwards weaves. So that's where we start with our palm up. We cross over one side and the other. We can also do side weaves. So now the hoop is doing exactly the same path, but it comes in front and behind, I should say. And you can reverse if you feel like it. So there is quite a bit of freedom in this. It's not just that you have to do a forwards weave. You can do it with your second hand. You can do it with both hands. Again, front and back. So the practice, the flow practice, is to focus on one movement, and this one is a little bit multi-layered in that we have some reverse patterns and some different planes, side planes and front and back, but just feeling into what else the body wants to express, maybe slow. Notice when there's a need to go into, especially if you are well practiced at transitions, when there's a need to go into something else, like I feel my mind, I feel my body wanting to go into other moves that I know. And therein lies the tension that we can become very familiar with certain things. And this is not about, judging ourselves or being really negative. It's just becoming aware that in fact you do have a lot of movement, and then at the same time you do have a lot of untapped expression that is not coming through. And it may not come through today, or maybe it will, and it may not come through tomorrow. But it's these types of practices that we can give ourselves to help explore the full range of emotion and expression that we have. Ooh. Now please don't be upset with yourself if you go into, that trained motion, which for me starts to come in. It's okay. It's beautiful. Allow that to happen. It's almost like, sometimes as hoopers, we get fixated on the mistake, the dropping of the hoop. Your arm is getting tired. Or, I don't know what comes next. There's like little roadblocks. They're moments of tension, and that can happen in trick restriction as well. Even though you really only have one focus, sometimes you're like, oh no, I messed it up. You didn't mess it up at all. You can't mess it up. That's the thing. While you're in practice, should be getting warmed up. So when we deepen the breath, we soften the mind, we allow the sensations to flow, we recognize the tension, and then we move through. This is where we find those new pockets of expression. This is where we find that growth. Awesome. Last one. Okay. Starting to feel nice and warm. Last week we did some of this sliding, popping kind of motion. So really the trick or the restriction is that we're just holding the hoop on the outside like this. So you can make different patterns. You can push from right to left. Obviously you can change hands, and you should change hands. You can just kind of pull down and up. You can pop up and down. You can push to the sky, push to the back. Don't let me influence you though. So just a few more moments of this really warming up, and take this as an opportunity to fully activate, especially in the upper body. If I've been driving a lot today for many, many hours, and my body feels really tight. So use this time not just to focus on the tricks or become aware of the tension, but also to open up the body and find new space. Again, you cannot get it wrong. There is nothing that will make it a mistake. All you need to do is move into a focused state of flowing. Breathing, you may close your eyes, you may make new shapes and patterns one way and then the other. Repetition or constant change just explore without too much need to control. This is where we'll sometimes find that inner control freak come out and want to go into patterns that are very familiar, or want to try to make it into something. Trying, we can let go of the trying right here. And when we do, that's when, again, we find that growth. We find those new pockets, not just in our physical awareness, like I can feel my upper body really starting to expand, but we can find that in our mental clarity and just that beautiful, sweet allowing. Continue to move here if one arm is feeling a little tired, or if there's just too much pressure. Just imagine the flowing state inside your body too. On a cellular level, I often like to imagine a certain color of water that runs very fluidly through my body. And this allows kind of like a very peaceful sensation, like it's no longer me holding and trying. It's an internal fluidity that allows. Notice that I'm inviting you to stay with this practice. Stay, because we don't often access everything, the depths of what we need. We don't meet those edges in just a few moments. We're very lucky if we do. And so there's a longevity in our practice that needs to exist for us to be able to unfold more and more. And breathe. If your body is telling you that there's too much physical tension, you can go back to one of the other practices. So maybe that is center isolation. Is there newness here? Is there a shift in the body now that it is warm? You're feeling more confident and strong, more centered and grounded in these movements. Is there more expression? Do you feel like there is more room for you to play? perhaps maybe it is the weaves that are calling you for just a moment longer. Maybe you're feeling like there is some more creative play that exists in the tension now. That suddenly, yes, you do feel the fluidity. Yes, you do feel like they all come together. And now, just as I try not to clock watch because time can sometimes get in the way of that ultimate flow state, I invite you to bring 3 movements together. Center isolation, weave, and those pulsing, popping isolations. And now the fluidity comes into the transitions. Just allow them to happen. When you find yourself stopping and thinking, come back to one trick, come back to the restriction, and just allow yourself to flow into the next. Maybe your movements are becoming more expansive. Maybe they're slowing down. Each time you do a practice like this, you will find that it will be different. Just luxuriate in giving yourself this time to practice simplicity and growth, because that's really what the whole concept of this trick restriction is. That in the most simple of movements, we can in fact find the most creative expansion. Who would have thought? Opening up, softening down, and let's just take the hoop onto the floor. And we're going to just hinge over at the hips. You might want to take the hoop out here. We're just going to allow a little bit more flow through the body and just feel into the sensations that we've created. So right hand goes over to the left. You're going to find what feels right for you. If your hoop's dropping or you're feeling like you need to support yourself, you really just want to get an opening through the side body here. You're going to know what feels best for your beautiful body. Just a length in the spine, and then over to the other side. Just finding moments of stillness here, and then moments of length. And coming to center, just take your hoop out in front. Give yourself a nice long stretch, peeling the energy from the heels of the feet all the way back through the lower legs, the backs of the knees, the backs of the thighs, up and over the hips, and then shooting out through the crown of the head and the tips of the fingers. Am I squishing my hoop? If you don't want to do this with your hoop, you can do this on a chair, maybe on a wall, whatever feels right for you. Just opening up through the body, allowing yourself this space so that you can come to today's flow session practices just with a really open mind, an open body, and a readiness. Okay, grab a drink of water if it feels right for you, and let's move into some flow sessions.